Hello, folks. Welcome back to another episode here on the Mr. Analyst channel. My name is Leighton Levy. Thanks again for joining us, and thank again for the engagement. The subscribers are increasing, and of course, the comments are always interesting. Today, we're talking basketball again because earlier this week, on Monday to be precise, Jamaica took on Puerto Rico in what was the second match in the first round of FIBA World Cup qualifiers, that group that contains Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Bahamas, and of course Canada. And Jamaica played their first match in Puerto Rico because they were unable to host the home game for a lot of issues that you would have seen in the previous video that I did. And of course, the second game on Monday night was the Puerto Rico leg of the competition. Jamaica won that game 97-92. Jamaica was leading at one point by 20 points, but it came down to some critical moments at the end of the game before Jamaica was able to pull it off 97-92. Whereas joined by the captain for this window, a man who scored 9 points and pulled down 10 boards in that match, was crucial to the success, Captain Kenton Facey. Kenton, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the 2 wins. First of all, let me ask you this. How nerve-wracking were those last 2.5, 3 minutes of that second game against Puerto Rico?
Man, first of all, I appreciate you having me back on your platform. I appreciate the support, me personally, and I'm sure on a wider scale, our team, our coaching staff, everyone in connection with Jamaica basketball. We really appreciate the support and the level of awareness that you bring towards the sport for us. Now, going into that game in the last few minutes, it was to be up by 20 against one of the teams that's ranked top 20 in the world, and to get down to a point where you're down in those last minutes and then you find a way to take the lead again. You're just holding on. We won the first game. We're thinking they're coming out, swinging. So we were ready for what they had to throw at us in the beginning of the game. Now we got up big. They fought back because that's who they are. They're a team that's experienced. Their program has been, they're Olympians, right? So these guys have a level of experience that a lot of us on our team currently don't have. So it was just a matter of holding on and fighting to the finish and sneaking one out of there.
The key thing, let me break down a little thing, because there have been some changes from the first window. And of course, the round in Mexico where we came out, and advanced to this round of competition. Norman Powell was out, but Kofi Cockburn came in and, of course, scored 25 and 15?
26 and 15 in
the
that
first game.
Right. Yep.
And, of course, 15 and 12 in this very crucial second game. I'm talking to me about the roster changes and the impact that those players had coming in, because you also had Drew Selwell again, who also came in and did pretty well at point.
Right. So as far as Norm goes, obviously the NBA season is underway. So those guys are available whenever their season is not in full swing. So right now, with him being committed to the NBA, obviously, he won't be able to participate in any of the FIBA windows right now. As far as Kofi, no, that was a big addition for us. That was huge. Change how the style of play, really. In Mexico, we had Romario Gil. It's a different style of player, with Romario, he's more of a pick and roll threat, a lob threat like that. But with Kofi, he's just a big body in the paint, and it's it's hard to move him, man. And he has a really great touch around the basket. So he was able to come in and have an immediate impact on the team, and obviously the results were there to show for that. And you touched on Drew. Drew, he plays in my league over in France. He's a young guy coming in his first year as a professional, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. He came in, he was big time for us too. He was a leader when we needed it. He gave us a combination of scoring and kind of being that point guard that organizes everything for us. So that was great to have him as part of our team.
And since we're talking about players who came in, this guy Chase Adig, I don't know anything about him. I hear he plays in Spain for Malaga, I think it is. He was pretty consistent, as well as Tyron Latibodere has been consistent across both games. When you look at the team that played in Mexico and the team, I asked this question of Coach Turner. There have been roster changes, but if you should, I don't know if term is compare But
Mhm.
how do the rosters stack up against each other in terms of compatibility, in terms of energy, in terms of what the team requires to be this consistent?
So going off our first team in the pre-qualifiers, you have an NBA guy on the roster. You cannot ignore the talent that he brings to the
Yeah, for
team.
real.
You know, even if he's not scoring 35, 40 points, the level of attention that he draws from the defenders, it's gonna give opportunities for other guys to be more open than they normally would on the, for example, this team that we had going into Puerto Rico. So I think each team had their pros and cons, right? The pro was with you're with an NBA talent. He's gonna teach you different things. He's gonna command a certain amount of attention, so it'll be easier for other guys. Now coming into Puerto Rico, I feel like we had a team that was more well-rounded, I would say. Across the board, the talent was pretty equal. Um, well, you know, some guys were able to take a step and be more effective within certain parts of the game. It wasn't all game one guy was scoring 30. Obviously, Kofi was so impactful because he's just a force in the paint, you know, so we kept trying to go to him and use that advantage. But across the board, I feel like we were more consistent with the talent level.
I just saw that. I mean, there were 6 players in double figures in the first game, and I think 5 in the second game, guys, double
Hmm.
figures. I mean,
And maybe
so
two or three guys at 9 points. So give or take a basket or
yeah.
two, you know, it's like seven guys.
So you're seeing that all around talent, which I think actually helps the team because when you're going up against a team like Puerto Rico, we're what, 15, 16th in the world,
Right.
you'll have to have a team that's strong in all the positions to be able to be competitive. But not only was Jamaica competitive, we actually dominated Puerto Rico for big parts of the game. As I mentioned before, there was a point where Jamaica was leading 64-44. Let me stick. Well, tell you what. Let me stick with my flow of questions because there's something I wanted to ask you before we get to that. Coach Turner tells me that for all of the other players who were playing well and everything, he valued your leadership in those 2 games. He felt that because Norman wasn't there, that you took it on your shoulder to lead this team. Talk to me about that dynamic for you. I mean, of course, we know you're experienced. Of course, we know you have that nous that to be able to lead in terms of certain circumstances on the floor. But talk to me about that leadership and what it meant to you. And how important was it for these 2 games?
You know, to be in that position, first of all, it's an honor and it's a privilege. I've really embraced that role because it means a lot to me to be able to go out there and represent my country at one of the highest level and to be named the captain for that team. It was a tremendous honor, and I wanted to make sure that I lived up to that and what was expected of me to be that leader that our coaching staff could count on, to be that leader that my teammates could count on, you know, to set an example for how we're gonna go do things, how we're gonna communicate during the games, and all these different things. But it was just a great privilege for me to in a sense earn that title from our coaching staff. Obviously, I have done things in a way or to a standard where they can appreciate what I bring to the team and realize that I could use that to be impactful too, not just on the court, but also off the court, trying to help guys stay together and build the team in a sense to what we're expecting Jamaica basketball to eventually get to. Right now, it's just taking these different steps to get there. And I'm super proud to be a part of this team, and I'm proud to be playing a big role in it in that sense.
Yeah, and of course, as a former Knoxman, so you have those qualities from morning. So,
Right, right, exactly. There you go. You
yeah,
said it.
but
You said it, not me.
yeah, but let's break down the game a little bit. I mean, there are obviously 2 different, distinct phases of the game where Jamaica dominated the first significant portion of the game, where Jamaica went into the first half and then eventually with leading, and of course then took a commanding lead in the game. What were the factors that led to that dominating performance early on in the game?
I think it goes back to our preparation, our game plan, starting with Coach Turner and our assistant coaches, then down to the players. It started in practice. I got there maybe a day late. So the first day we were going over our defensive scheme and everything like that. And so at first it was new to me, right? But looking at our personnel, I realized what Coach Turner was thinking, and we quickly adapted to that. And we went out and we executed it for the most part for majority of the games. and it worked in our favor. Obviously, like I said before, Puerto Rico is a great team, so they made adjustments. Players came out and they were taking the shots we were giving them. They were making a few. We made a few mistakes on defense, which they capitalized on. But overall, I think that led, was spearheaded by our game plan put in place by our coaches.
But what happened with that? Because Mexico went, not Mexico, Puerto Rico went on a big run. I mean, gradually eating away at that lead to the point where they came to win, what was it, 3 points at near the end?
Right,
And of course,
right,
there was a very crucial turnover, but then they turned it over again at the end, and then we got the
right,
ball back and took 2 free throws to win the game, to seal the win. But what
right.
what changed, and why weren't we able to adapt to what they were doing, or was it just the flow of the game?
So I think it's more of a flow of the game thing, and obviously the basketball is round, man. People are gonna make shots, and people are gonna miss shots, but they were taking and making the shots we were giving up, right? So if we're gonna live and die by this, this is what we're gonna live and die by. Over the course of a game, to do that consistently all through the game, if you could do that, they would have won the game, right? But
Mhm.
getting into that and throwing them off a bit, it helped. It wore them down. Eventually got to the point where they're gonna make a big run, but it's not gonna be enough to sustain what they've been doing for the last 5 minutes versus the first 20 minutes of the game where they struggled to figure out what we're doing. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying they struggled, but the
Yeah.
results show that they weren't capitalizing as much as they probably would have liked to. So I think that's what it was. Over the course of the game, sticking to our game plan, it gave us the advantage in the end where we won the game. Now it wasn't pretty, it wasn't perfect
No,
because
it
they're
wasn't.
great. They have really good players. They have a great coaching staff. They have an experienced group of guys. So going in there and getting 2 wins, it was not easy. So the coaching staff that we have, they had a great game plan. Over the course of the game, I felt like Puerto Rico got to a point where they're like, okay, this is what they're doing. Now, can we make all the shots that they're giving us in order to win the game? Chances are you're not going to make every shot you take, so we're going
Mhm.
to live with that.
Yeah. These 2 wins, though. I mean, we play the Bahamas next in February. Hopefully, one of those games will be here in Jamaica. How much confidence does this team now take into that round next year? Given the look, based on the respective rankings, Jamaica had no business beating Puerto Rico in back-to-back games.
Mm.
Individually, I don't know if you've spoken to the players afterwards, or you guys had a conversation afterwards. How much confidence has the team taken from these 2 wins?
I'll phrase it like this: as a team that hasn't played together in a high level environment, it'll take a lot for us to go to Puerto Rico and win games. So that shows us that we could compete at this level. Now, going into the next set of games, those games aren't played before the ref throws the ball off, right? So we're
Mhm.
not trying to get ahead of ourselves. We've realized that the body of work that we've been putting in since the inception of this whole thing, back to pre-qualifiers and all that, it shows us that we're on the right path. And if we continue along this path, we could find some favorable results. So that's the consensus across the board. We're preparing for each game, knowing that we could compete at this level. Now, when we get to the game, it might be a different feeling. Like, listen, we could do this. We're going out there to win. We're not going out there to lose games. So we're going out there to win games, and we've shown to ourselves and to I hate to say the word, but we've shown to ourselves that we could compete at this level. Now we put in the right resources and all these different things in Jamaica, then we could take this thing to a whole nother level, I believe.
Absolutely, and of course, you're cautious on saying the world, but based on what the social media posts that have gone viral, the news reports that have gone viral, even out of Europe, there are stories about the Jamaicans and what they did in Puerto Rico. So maybe people are beginning to pay attention now. But you mentioned, of course, being at home and having the resources. How important is it for this team to be able to play before a home crowd, given the absence of resources, the challenges about playing at home? Because Coach Turner tells me that the Montego Bay Convention Center is charging too much. They are unable to borrow some of the equipment to take to Kingston. I mean, that's things that above your pay grade, obviously. But how
Mhm.
important would it be to be able for all you guys to assemble on home turf to play against the Bahamas and perhaps even Canada as well?
Man, that would mean the world to all of us. We've been playing in different parts of the world. We have guys as far as Japan. France, Spain, all these different countries. And for us to be able to come home and represent our country, our home country together, that would be incredible. Not only for us, but for our family who has never seen some of us play as a professional. My family has never seen me in any setting outside of Jamaica before. So it would be great for them to be able to come out, support the team, support their family members, and try to raise that banner, another rung. We're big on track and field. We're big on football. I know it's been a rough go for our guys recently, and I'll never be a part of anything slandering our reggae boys. I'm a big fan. I'm good friends with one our captain there with Andre Blake. We both went to UConn. So there's a relationship there. So there's never gonna be a point in time where I talk bad about those guys. So our football team, track and field, netball, women's football, everything like this. We bring some attention. Recently, with, in Winter
Bobsled
Olympics,
teams.
like I'm
Yeah.
about to say, our bobsled team is doing incredible. So those are all good things, and they're bringing in a lot more attention to the country and what could be possible in the world of sports for Jamaica. Now, on the basketball side of things, I believe that there is a lot of on potential there where with the proper resources, not only for us as the players for the national team, it would be a game changer for us, right? It would give us an home court advantage, all these different things. But if you get the right resources and infrastructures in place, that could change the lives of many, many kids who are aspiring to take that next step in the sport, whatever it might look like: football, basketball, netball, cricket, whatever, bobsled, whatever it might look like. If we have those resources, it'll then allow them to explore those dreams. For me, growing up in Trelawney, basketball wasn't the first thing I was thinking about, but I went to Knox and that was something that was provided, and I explored that avenue, and that led me to getting a college scholarship. That led me to a path of being a professional basketball player. Now I'm on a path of representing my country and trying to get us as a team to qualify for the World Cup. So that's just having the resources in place to take advantage of and realizing dreams that some guys don't even know they have. But once they get to that point, they just need the opportunity to go and see what's out there.
Hmm. And of course, one of my final questions with this, one of the things that certainly has opened my eyes is the look, I know a lot of kids here who are playing basketball probably aspire to play in the NBA. That's the biggest league in the world. That's the strongest league in the world. But what we're seeing here is that there is a very strong Jamaican slash Caribbean presence in Europe as well, because the bulk of this team plays in Europe. As I mentioned, of course, Adig, we're talking about Romain Thomas, talking about yourself, we're talking about Thelwell. All of you guys are playing in Europe and you're playing at NBA standard, put it that way. Is this now opening the eyes of kids in Jamaica that there is another avenue other than the NBA in which you can have a successful career at basketball?
100%. And there are a lot of little nuances that is not readily available to these kids, especially in Jamaica and other Caribbean islands. For example, playing in a country like France, you get a certain amount of import players per team. In my league, we have one American passport. We have what they call Boston or Continental, so you have about three of those. So for myself, you would consider me an American as far as training. I went to part of high school there, university, and all these different things. So I was trained in the U.S. Now coming over to Europe, I would count as a U.S. trained player,
Uh,
but because of my Jamaican passport, I'm more valuable to a team because they get to sign in another American player with an American passport. So that essentially gives them two American trained players for one on paper. So that's an avenue that a lot of Caribbean guys, explore in countries like Spain, France, Italy, just based on the fact that we have a different passport, but we have that same skill set, we have that same exposure to that game on that side of the world. It makes us more valuable. So it's little things like this that once you become more aware of, then you know that there are more options there. Now, don't get me wrong. If I could play in the NBA tomorrow, I'd do anything to do that, right? But the fact that you could go on and there are more options available for you, the probability of making it to the NBA is it's very possible. It's doable. Now you have to start with a plan. You have to have these resources like we spoke about before. You're not going to just wake up one day and decide, all right, I'm going to try to make it to the NBA, not having laid that foundation. So the earlier we could start laying those foundations for the younger athletes behind, then it would put them in a better position to realize those dreams. So the fact that us Jamaicans have that much more value just because of our passport, for example, it opens up a whole different world and another set of opportunities.
All right, Kenton Facey, thank you so much. It's been very, very insightful, and of course, looking forward to see Jamaica play. Hopefully, we'll be able to see you guys at home in February, playing against the Bahamas and pulling off a third consecutive win, which would go a long way into helping Jamaica to qualify for the World Cup in 2027. Thanks again, congratulations again, and hopefully again we'll talk soon after another win.
All right, thanks for having me.